The Whispering Shadows. In a small, isolated town, nestled between dense forests and steep hills, there existed an old mansion known as Blackwood Manor. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed tones, warning children to stay away from its crumbling walls and darkened windows. Legends whispered of the family that once lived there, the Blackwoods, who had mysteriously vanished one stormy night, leaving behind only shadows and secrets. Years passed, and the manor fell into disrepair. Vines crawled up the sides of the house, and the roof sagged under the weight of time. Yet, despite its dilapidated state, it continued to draw the curiosity of many, especially thrill-seeking teenagers. Among them was a group of 4 friends: Sarah, Tom, Lisa, and Jake. They were drawn to the manor one fateful Halloween night, eager to prove their bravery. "Come on, it'll be fun," Sarah urged, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What's the worst that could happen?" Tom, always the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "You really think we should? I mean, people say it's haunted." "Haunted or not, it's just an old house," Lisa chimed in, her voice steady. "We'll be fine. We'll just go in, take a few pictures, and leave." Jake, the most adventurous of the group, grinned. "I'm in. Let's show this place who's boss." As they approached the manor, a chill swept through the air. The wind howled like a mournful spirit, and the moonlight barely pierced through the thick clouds overhead. The front door creaked open as if inviting them inside. Hesitating only for a moment, they stepped over the threshold into darkness. The interior was a time capsule of decay, dust-covered furniture, peeling wallpaper, and cobwebs that hung like curtains in every corner. Their flashlights flickered as they explored room after room, each filled with remnants of a life once lived. Old portraits lined the walls, the eyes of the subjects seeming to follow their every move. "Look at this!" Lisa exclaimed, pointing to a dusty piano in the parlor. "I wonder if it still works." She sat down and pressed a key. A haunting note echoed through the hallways, sending shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated from upstairs. "What was that?" Tom whispered, his bravado fading. "Probably just the wind," Jake said dismissively, but even he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Curiosity piqued, they decided to investigate the source of the noise. They climbed the creaking staircase, each step echoing ominously in the stillness. As they reached the second floor, they found themselves in a long hallway lined with doors. "Let's check this one," Sarah suggested, pointing to a door at the end of the hall. They pushed it open to reveal a dimly lit room filled with old furniture draped in white sheets. In the center stood a large mirror, its surface clouded with age. As they approached it, their reflections shimmered strangely in the glass. "Do you see that?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "It looks like shadows moving behind us." They turned quickly but found nothing there, just darkness stretching behind them. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, they continued exploring until they heard soft whispers echoing through the halls. "Did you hear that?" Tom asked nervously. "It's probably just the wind again," Jake replied, though he too felt uneasy. But as they moved deeper into the manor, the whispers grew louder and more distinct. They could make out words, fragments of conversations that seemed to swirl around them like a fog. "Help us. Trapped. Never escape." Panic set in as they realized they were not alone. Shadows flitted just beyond their vision, darting in and out of sight. The air grew heavy with a sense of dread as they stumbled upon an open door leading to a darkened cellar. "We should get out of here," Tom urged, but Jake was already stepping inside. "Come on, this could be awesome." Very reluctantly, the others followed him down into the cellar. The air was damp and musty, and their flashlights barely illuminated the stone walls. In one corner lay an old trunk covered in dust. "What do you think is inside?" Lisa asked. "Only one way to find out," Jake said with a grin as he knelt beside it and lifted the lid. Inside were old photographs and letters belonging to the Blackwood family. As they sifted through the contents, they uncovered a diary that belonged to Eliza Blackwood, the last surviving member of the family. Her entries spoke of strange occurrences in the manor, voices calling to her from the shadows, and an overwhelming sense of despair that enveloped her. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the cellar, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic surged as darkness engulfed them. The whispers crescendoed into frantic cries for help. "Get out! Get out!" Sarah screamed. In a frenzy, they scrambled towards the stairs but found themselves disoriented in the pitch blackness. The whispers morphed into anguished wails that echoed off the walls. "Help us! Help us!" Just as they thought they would be lost forever, Jake stumbled upon a faint glimmer of light emanating from a crack in the wall. "This way!" he shouted. They rushed towards it, pushing against the cold stone until they broke through into an adjacent room, a small library filled with dusty books and cobwebs. In their haste to escape, they didn't notice that one book had fallen open on the floor. As they caught their breath, they looked around frantically for an exit when suddenly they heard a soft voice behind them. "Stay with us." They turned to see shadowy figures emerging from the corners of the room, ghostly apparitions of the Blackwood family. Their faces were twisted in sorrow and desperation. "Please, don't leave us," one whispered, reaching out with translucent hands. The friends were paralyzed with fear as memories flooded back. The stories they had heard as children about how the Blackwoods had been cursed to roam their home forever. The realization hit them hard. They had unwittingly entered a realm where time stood still, a place where souls were trapped between life and death. "We have to go!" Tom yelled as he grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her towards what appeared to be another exit. The shadows closed in around them as they raced through darkened hallways that seemed to shift and change before their eyes. The whispers grew louder and more frantic, echoes of sorrow pleading for release. Finally, bursting through a door into what seemed like daylight, they stumbled outside into the cool night air. But as they looked back at Blackwood Manor, it was no longer standing there. Instead, only shadows danced where it had been. Breathless and shaken, they vowed never to speak of that night again. But as time went on, each friend began to experience strange occurrences, whispers in their ears when alone, fleeting shadows at the edge of their vision. One by one, they started disappearing, first Lisa, then Tom, until only Sarah and Jake remained. Desperate for answers, they returned to where Blackwood Manor once stood, but found nothing but overgrown weeds and silence. As Jake turned to leave, he felt a cold hand grip his shoulder. He spun around but saw no one there, only darkness creeping back into his mind. "Sarah!" he called out in panic. "We have to go!" But when he turned back to find her, she was gone, swallowed by shadows that whispered her name. Years passed in silence until one day a new group of teenagers stumbled upon an abandoned lot where Blackwood Manor had once stood. They exchanged stories about ghosts and curses as they dared each other to enter what remained, a mere memory buried beneath time's relentless march. And as they crossed that threshold into darkness once more, echoes of laughter turned to screams, the cycle beginning anew as whispers filled the air. "Help us, trapped, never escape."